Hi everybody, my name is Jennifer Brown and we're going to talk today about transforming PowerPoints into online learning. First, we're going to talk about what version of PowerPoint you have and how in Hillsborough County you have access to the Office 365 version of PowerPoint for free. That is the version I will be using for this demonstration, and I'm going to show you how you can access that download. We're also going to talk about how to record your voice and or your video over current slides you already have or slides you're about to create. We will also talk about how to insert videos from online sources or sources on your computer into a PowerPoint. We're going to look at screen recording and how you can record your screen and your voice. We're also going to talk a little bit about accessibility and how to make sure that your PowerPoint is accessible for all learners. And lastly, we'll talk about exporting your video as a file. First, we're going to talk about downloading your Office 365 version of PowerPoint if you have not done this already. If you're already on a school device, you're probably fine. It's already got the Office 365 version. If you're on a home device, you can go to portal.office.com. Type in your login number at hcps.net, and your password is just your regular Active Directory password, the password you use for everything. Once you log in to your Office 365 account, you'll be here on what's called your splash page, and if you look over towards the right, you'll see Install Office. This is where you can go to install your Office 365 apps and get the most up-to-date version of PowerPoint on your home device. So many of us already have PowerPoints already designed that either we designed or our textbook companies designed. They're inside our online textbooks. We bought them from Teachers Pay Teachers, any of those things. And all it takes to create an online video of our lesson is adding our voice to it. And we can do that right inside of PowerPoint. The first thing you're going to do is open up your PowerPoint that you have and head to the slideshow ribbon. On the slideshow ribbons, you'll see record slideshow. And I'm going to click the bottom part and I get two options: record from current slide, that's the slide I'm on, or record from the beginning. In my case, I want to record from the current slide. If you want to start at the beginning, you just choose record from the beginning, and I'm going to hit record current slide. It's going to take me to a different screen. Here we have some different settings. First of all, you'll see over here in the top left, these are our record settings. We're going to come back to these. In the middle is your note settings. If you had typed any PowerPoint notes, you would view them here. The students would not, and you're recording, just you. It might be a good place to leave yourself some notes of what you need to cover on that slide. Here is clear. We're going to talk about that in a minute after we have recorded something. And then our settings. This is to show which microphone we want to use and what camera we want to use. Down here in the bottom right corner, you'll see a few more settings. You'll see that you can see my video in the bottom right of the screen. I can turn that off by turning off the camera here. So I can decide whether or not I want my students to see my face, which sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. So I can turn that off there. And then I have my microphone here. This allows me to turn on and off my microphone if I want them to hear me or not. I always want them to hear me when I'm doing this, so I almost always leave this on. Down here at the bottom are our inking settings. So I can choose to write with a pen in any of these colors or a highlighter in any of these colors while I'm presenting. So I'm going to choose a pen in red ink for our example. So this pen, red ink. And I'm going to come up here again to this top left-hand corner and I'm going to hit record. Once I click record, it counts me down. And now I'm recording my voice. You'll notice my slide went back to its original setting because I have some animation set in here. So I am talking and my students would hear what I'm saying and they would see where my mouse is pointing. And as I click this arrow to the right, some of my animations come in. So I can say, this is this step. I can even, again, draw with those tools. Now, if you have a device that has a stylus, it'll probably be a little bit prettier than how I am with my mouse. hit next, and here comes my next animation and my next animation. Again, I can draw, and they can hear it and they can see me drawing when they watch this back, and hit next. And then when I'm ready to go on to the next slide, all I do is click that arrow again. And it's going to just keep taking me through my PowerPoint presentation. But if I accidentally mess something up, oh, that's messed up, I can easily clear just this slide. So first I'm going to hit stop. And you'll see, oh, I had those lines in there and I did not want those. So I'm going to click clear, and I can choose clear recordings on this current slide only. This is so great because if you mess up on your very last slide, you do not want to have to start over, and you don't have to here. If you want to start over, you can choose clear recordings on all slides, but you can clear the recording just on one slide at a time, which is a great resource. So I'm going to come back and hit record and do this slide again, and I don't have to redo my first slide. And then I hit next, and here comes that next part, and maybe that's where I want to draw. And when I'm done, I hit stop. And I can close out of this screen with this arrow in the top right corner, but I can always come back to it. So on the next slide, I can always come back to my slideshow, record slideshow, and just record from current slide. And I can just keep on recording my voice at different times if I need to, so I don't have to do it all in one setting, which is also very nice. Sometimes we want to add outside videos into our PowerPoint presentations to add a little bit more engagement, and I can do that very easily in PowerPoint. I'm going to go to my Insert ribbon, Insert, all the way to the right, I have a video option. When I click on it, I have two options to choose from. One is an online video and one is a video on my PC. So I'm going to choose online first. So it's just going to give me a box to type in a URL for an online video. So I went to YouTube and I found this great design cycle video for my PowerPoint. And all I have to do is copy this, so I can select everything, right click and copy, and come over here and right click and paste, and then click insert. And you'll see that the video is then inserted into my PowerPoint slide. So I can make it a little bigger if I need to, fill the screen, whatever is going to work best for your students. And depending on how you're going to have the students run through the PowerPoint, as either a video where it runs on its own or as a slideshow where they have to run it, you might want to change the playback method. So in order to do that, I have to first click on that video. And you'll see I've got two new ribbons here at the top, a format ribbon and a playback ribbon. I want to click on playback, and I want this to run automatically. So I'm going to click the drop down and choose automatically. So as soon as this video comes on the screen, this slide comes up, this video will start to play. That's a great setting to always choose if you want it to run on its own, so your students don't have to worry about clicking play. Just playback automatically. But remember, the key is that you have to click on the video itself before I get these extra video tools. I could have added a video of my own that's on my PC. So if I had a video I wanted to choose from, I can maybe add one of those, and it's just going to open up this file explorer where I can go in and look for videos that I have and insert those. So whichever way you choose, that's how you insert a video into your PowerPoint. Sometimes you have a item on your screen that you want to take a picture of, and there's lots of different ways to do that, print screen and your snipping tool, but actually PowerPoint has that already built in as well. So I'm on a blank slide here, and I'm just going to go to my insert ribbon, and right underneath, almost right underneath the word insert, is the images section, and you can choose screenshot. So this is showing me what's behind my screen right now, or I can come here to screen clippings and it's going to give me this little crosshair so I can take a picture of what I want. So maybe I want to take a picture of this because I want to show the students this is how I want them to set up all their papers. So I'm going to click and drag, and it just put that right into my PowerPoint slide. So that is a screenshot. Sometimes you want to create your own video for your students to show them something specific. And in that case, you can choose to use the screen recorder. It's on the Insert ribbon all the way to the right called Screen Recording. When I click on it, it's going to minimize my PowerPoint. Sometimes ask me to select the area by graying out the screen and giving me this little crosshair. And then I can click and drag out the part of the screen I want to record. Can even choose to whether or not to have my audio on, if I just want to have just the pointer, or if I want to have the pointer at all. I can choose those things here. Once I have done that, I click record, and it's going to count me down from 3. And now it's recording what I do. So I can come in here and I can click on certain things and go to different parts of the screen. I can maybe show them what's on their textbook. I can maybe go into this virtual library and show them all the great things that are there that they can use in class or use for a research project. I can show them all of this and talk to them at the same time. And when I'm done, all I have to do is come up to the top and hit stop. Once I hit stop, it's going to then put that video right inside my PowerPoint, and there it is right there. So I can watch it. I can even right click on it and trim it and trim where it's going to start and stop. I can do all of that right inside of PowerPoint. And so that's a video that I created with my voice and my screen for my students to watch. When you think you're about done with your PowerPoint presentation, one thing you should do is check the accessibility. And you can do that easily on the Review tab. It's under Check Accessibility. And what this does is shows you where you're missing things that might make your presentation easier to view for all of your students. One of the things that Microsoft really stresses is making sure all of your pictures and videos have alternative text in case they don't load. Also titles to make sure that everything flows really well. Captions for your audio and video. Even reading order of some of your slides. Sometimes it even will show you colors that are wrong because some of our colorblind students might not be able to view it as well, or fonts that are difficult to read for some of our dyslexic or dysgraphic students. So coming to Review and Check Accessibility and going through their options to fix your mistakes is a really great idea before you finish your presentation. When you are done creating and recording on your presentation, you can export this as a video file. That way, your students never have to actually click through a PowerPoint presentation, and they see it at the speed that you want them to see it. And I can do this by going to File, Export. So my File menu, Export, and I'm going to choose Create a Video. And I usually like to choose the HD version, but you can choose any of the versions of the file that you want. I want to keep use recorded timings and narrations because I just worked on all of these timings and narrations, so I want to make sure it stays on there. This is telling me that any slide that I did not have a timing or narration on will be there for 5 seconds. And I can make that longer or shorter depending on what I know those slides have on it. And then I click Create Video, and it's just going to ask me where to save it. And once I hit save, it's going to create the video. It can take a few minutes to create your video, but it'll show up in the place that you choose, whether it's your desktop or your OneDrive or your videos folder, wherever you choose to put it on your computer. Okay, so once I have that video file, all I need to do is be able to put it into Edsby for my students to view. So I'm going to log into Edsby and go into my class and type something in the post like today's lesson. And I can upload it here with these two little pieces of paper that said browse your computer. So I'm going to browse my computer and I'm going to go to my videos folder because that's where I know that I saved that video. I'm going to click on it and click open. It's going to take a little longer for this to upload than some other things like just basic files, but not too long. And then I can even choose to post it to multiple classes if I want. And then I click share. And you'll see that sometimes I click share a little early, so file must be complete. But then once the file is complete, it uploads it here into Edsby. And all my students have to do is come into Edsby and look and watch this video that I just created for them. So let's take a look at some examples of how you could use this in your classroom. This is a PowerPoint that I found as a free resource on Teachers Pay Teachers. And you could easily come in here and utilize this by clicking on the PowerPoint and recording your voice first over some of the slides. So it's just a lesson on prefixes and suffixes. So I'm going to go to record slideshow, say record from current slide. And it already has transitions in there for me. I can hit record and I can talk through it. Hi kids, today we're going to talk about prefixes and suffixes. And did you know that prefixes are the letters that are added to the beginning of a word? I can even highlight this or underline this even more if I wanted to. It's the beginning of a word. Especially if I had a stylus, it would be much better. Prefixes are things like re, which mean again, un, which means not, dis, which means opposite of. Can you think of any words that start with re or un or dis? And so on and so forth. So the teacher could go through this, add her voice, add some underlining, and stop when she wants. Another way you could add into this is maybe coming to this and really using your pen to go through these, adding a prefix to a root word and how it becomes a new word, or even opening up a blank slide and using your screen recorder to record a screen of you playing a game of prefixes with your students. And then you could even say, okay, oh, that's a word, hit go, there we go, and then we keep going. And then give them this website as well at the end for them to go and play and to learn about prefixes. So that's one way that a teacher could use this resource. Now we're going to take a look at a math example. So this is a math PowerPoint that, again, I found for free on Teachers Pay Teachers to use as an example. And it's already been set up with the transitions and the timings. So you'll see when I play it, it has the timings built in. And what's cool is that each question has these timings built in with each of the steps. So if I come back out, I can easily create a lesson out of this by coming and going to my slideshow. Sorry about that. And saying record slideshow from beginning. I'm going to hit record and I can talk through the quadratic formula. So here's the quadratic formula and I'm going to explain this to my students and I can say here is the formula and give them a few minutes, even just sit and let them give a few minutes to maybe write down the formula. And then it says you can solve each equation. They could be writing this down as they're listening to it. So you'd say write this down and you can stop and pause while you're talking and bring in each step after it. And again, it's just all about timing the animations for each step to come in right after. But in this case, I didn't even make this. Someone else did, and I was able to use the resource from Teachers Pay Teachers. And I could walk through each step, explaining it to the students as they figure out the answers themselves, and then they would see the answer appear. And it just continues on, and there's another problem. So a very easy way of creating a really great lesson that walks the students through all of the steps, and you can go at the pace that you know your students might need to go. Another example of how to use this would maybe just to be using the screen recorder. Sometimes it's just great to be able to record something online, record something you're doing on your computer. So this is a PhET example. This is the balloons and static electricity. And I can I can come over here and rub the balloon all over this sweater and see what's really happening. And then see what's happening over here. So I can show them and I can explain to them what's happening in this situation. Sometimes you have them do it, and sometimes it's nice for you to do it so you can explain it. So this is another great resource, and you can just do it right with your screen recorder inside PowerPoint. You can add it to a lesson, or maybe this is the only thing you do and you just have this one video to demonstrate this topic that you're talking about. So far what we've talked about is just ways to use PowerPoint Recorder and the screen recorder to record voice and your screen, sometimes your video, to create a video lesson for your students. But sometimes you want a little bit more engaging lesson, and so we're going to look at the different ways you can do that still inside PowerPoint, still utilizing some of those things we already talked about and then adding to it, like inserting forms, using the 3D models, or even using some of their add-ins that PowerPoint has. As teachers, we know how powerful it is to have assessment as we work through a lesson to make sure our students are grasping the knowledge that we need them to get. And we can do that in a PowerPoint, and that's through the insert ribbon and this forms button. But the key is that you have to make sure that your PowerPoint account is connected to your Office 365 account. And you do that by clicking on File and scrolling all the way down on the left-hand side to Account. And this section here will show you what your account is. If this is not your Office 365 account, either switch account or sign into your account. Then you'll be able to connect to your forms on your Office 365 account. When I click on Forms, it is loading all the forms or quizzes I've ever created in Office 365, and then I can choose one and insert it into my PowerPoint. This is going to allow my students to have access to answer the questions I want them to answer. But the key for this is to make sure that when you share this information, you're not exporting it as a video. The students will not be able to interact with the form if it's in a video format. So you're just going to save it as a regular PowerPoint file. So you're just saving it as a PowerPoint presentation, just like you would normally when you're working on one. And then you're going to upload the PowerPoint file to your Edsby or whatever site that you're sharing your work with your students on. That way they'll have access to interact with the actual form. Another great new feature in the Office 365 version of PowerPoint is 3D models. Again, it's under the Insert ribbon. It's here in the Illustrations group, 3D models. You can have your own if you are one of the people who create 3D models, but they have a lot of online sources. So when I go to From Online Sources, I get all sorts of options. And I can even animated for education, but I can search for what I want. So let's say I want to sell, and I can see all the different options that they have for me. And then click on one and hit insert. What's great about these 3D models is that they're interactive, so the students can move them around and see them. Now you could record yourself doing this, Or you can just save it as a PowerPoint file like we did for the forms, and that gives the students the ability to interact with the 3D model themselves. So you can make it a bigger size, but then they can spin it around and look at the different pieces of that 3D model. Again, that's under Insert, 3D Models. PowerPoint also has add-ins that you can add to increase the interactivity of your PowerPoint. They are on the Insert tab, Insert ribbon, under My Add-ins if you already have them, or Get Add-ins if you don't. If I go to Get Add-ins, it's going to take me to a store, and I'm going to have a lot of different options, but education is actually one of the categories. So I'm going to show you a couple different ones that I think are great. One is GeoGebra for PowerPoint. So these are interactive GeoGebra worksheets, and I can click Add, and I can add these things right into my PowerPoint, again, for my students to interact with. What's so great about it is that they can interact, make this PowerPoint interactive, and you can still have your voice on other slides and video on other slides, just like we talked about earlier. So it becomes a full lesson. So here's some GeoGebra options that I have, and you do have to create a GeoGebra account, but it is free. Another option under add-ins is the PhET simulation. So we talked earlier about possibly recording some of those simulations, but some of them are allowed to be actually put into your PowerPoint so the students can then interact with them themselves. If I go to education, or you can even just search it. There we go. And so I can add that and hit continue, and you'll see it pops up. It gives me a menu. And I can add some of these PhET simulations right into my PowerPoint that then my students can interact with. Insert this one. So again, I'm not going to be able to export this as a video. If I want my students to interact with the actual lesson, you have to save it as a regular PowerPoint file. If it is something that you just want them to listen to and learn from, then you can export it as a video. That's really how you're going to tell your differences. But this, again, is under add-ins on the Insert ribbon and creates a great interactive PowerPoint for your students. If you're interested in learning more about what we've discussed today, I have two great resources for you. The first is education.microsoft.com. This is the Microsoft Educator community, and it is full of amazing resources, courses, learning paths that you can take to learn more about all things Microsoft, but from a teacher's perspective. One of their courses is called Flipped Instruction with PowerPoint Recorder, and it covers a lot of what we've talked about today. I also have a Wakelet called PowerPoint Does That, and you can see the link right down here. And it has a lot of the training tools that we've learned today in short videos or articles. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. Thank you for attending.